Present. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yes.
One second. We need every board member turn on their mic. You could just push the button. No. Should be a blue
it's
button.
blue.
Should be blue.
Your mic should light up.
Sorry
blue.
about that.
Madam Chair, I'd like to move item 1.4, approval of minutes. Following the minutes, our special meeting June 7, 2021, regular meeting 23rd, 2021, special meeting board retreat June 24th through 26th, 2021, special meeting July 7th, 2021, regular meeting July 14th, 2021, special meeting July 26th, 2021, work session meeting August 4th, 2021, special meeting August 11th, 2021, and regular meeting August 18th, 2021.
Thank you so much. May I have a second?
Second.
I only second that.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly seconded. Board, are there any comments about the agenda? The no discussion. All right, Dr. Rock, can you please call the vote?
Yes.
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 Card up. Have we handed the cards out?
Oh, no, I don't believe it's any cards back there, but we don't have any guests today. Everyone's here presenting.
So the guests that are here will be presenting, but
Yeah,
normally
they are
this would be the
presenters.
time when the community could come up and spend 3 minutes and share their concerns with us. So we are going to move forward to item 1.6, and at this time I'm going to hand the agenda over to Mr. Jolly for your superintendent report.
Yes, I appreciate the opportunity. I just want to just publicly acknowledge the board for your prayers during my illness. I did miss the last meeting because of a sickness, and I appreciate the support that you provided me during that time. I also want to publicly acknowledge our leadership team for their hard work during my absence. The district did not lose a beat at all. Everyone stepped up to the plate and did a great job. So that's just a testimony to the people that we have working for our district, that they all are the consummate professionals, and the urgency of the matter, they all stepped up and did a great job. And I just wanted to say thank you to you, because I know I didn't respond. I was really out of it during that time, and you guys were, sending text messages and being very supportive, and I truly appreciate it. Tonight, I have a series of presentations that I am deferring to. We have some things on the agenda today that's very of importance. The first one, we have Mr. Jarvis Gibson, and I'm sorry, Jarvis, who's your co-facilitator? Dr. Anthony, and Dr. Anthony, who will be presenting the Beyond the Field program. Mr. Swift had brought this program to us this year. Mr. Gibson is a proven mentor, leader. He's been a head coach, football coach, but he has this great mentoring program for our athletes. Coming off the pandemic and trying to build our programs and build our teams, Mr. Swift. And he's out in the hallway, but I would have him speak for himself, but I'll speak for him. We need something to help our athletes and to stay motivated, but also to focus on their grades. Mr. Gibson has ran this program, I believe, at Shaker and the East Tech with proven success. So now he's want to bring it to our program. We want to use our ESSER funds to help with the social emotional, but also the academic component with our athletes in our district. As Mr. Swift builds our programs, we have more students participating, and this type of program is something that will engage them, help them, and follow them even after they graduate from high school. So I know Mr. Swift just walked in, but Mr. Swift, if you'd like to just introduce Mr. Gibson in the program. I did just give an overall overview of the program.
Yes.
But just see if you could add something to it.
I'm very, very excited about this program. Obviously, being over athletics, I've seen a slew of different student athletes come through the program, and I think over the last few years, some of the void that we see in some of our student athletes, I believe that this Beyond the Field program can fill. We get a lot of support from our coaches, our administration, and things like that, but we do have a lot of pieces that are missing from a lot of these kids. They come in with a lot of high hopes, a lot of ambitions, especially athletes trying to go to the next level and play. But once they go through and they see the rigor and the hard work that it takes, some of them fall off, some of them get a little less confident, some of them aren't prepared academically. And I believe that this Beyond the Field program will really, really help prepare those athletes. And not even to go to college to play sports, but to prepare them for life. So I'm excited. I'm really excited. I was talking to Mr. Jolly for a good month about this program. You know what I'm saying? So I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to have our guests here today to kind of explain more about Beyond the Field.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Coach Swift,
Yes.
what's the age group?
Beyond the Field.
Yes.
So the ages actually can start, and I'm sure Mr. Gibson will speak on it, but you start from 6-year-olds to 18, correct? But right now we'll probably start with like our freshmen who will be at the high school to start the program. But you can do it from 6-year-old all the way to 18 years old.
But you're not offering it to the elementary right now?
Not at the moment.
What about females? Are you doing it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. The male and female, yeah. And Beyond the Field, because Coach Gibson was a football coach, so that was kind of the reason, kind of the catchphrase where it kind of came from being a football coach. So you kind of use it at the location Shaker Heights, South High School, Chanel High School. Use it at those previous places where he coached. Okay. So it was kind of based on that. But we will have females involved in the program as well.
Oh.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. I'm ready.
Mr. Gibson.
Good evening, everyone.
Good
Good
evening
evening.
and welcome.
As Mr. Swift said, actually, I've been talking to him for the past 3 weeks.
Yes, sir.
And then we finally got Mr. Contractor to come in and speak up as well. So the Beyond the Field program is actually Beyond the Field. It's not really a mentoring program, it's more of a leadership program.
Oh, okay.
Because everyone likes to use a catchphrase mentoring program. But what is mentoring? Everyone has a different meaning for mentoring. So, if I had to go back to Freeman, when you played in 81, we had a program like this.
Yep.
Prior to you going to Colorado, I think you would pretty much set the tone before you would happen.
Yep.
Okay, so just again, this is Dr. Anthony. She actually co-wrote the program. It's actually a spin-off of the program that the NFL used to actually run, called KSmart, the national program. Actually, when it first came to Cleveland, they only put it in one school, and that was actually Linfield. So when you see Linfield go from 0 and 10 to 10 and 1 make the playoffs, it was actually running behind the scenes. But no one knew about it. Believe it or not, Dr. Anthony was actually running the program for the NFL. So talking with her, I ran a program called Honorable Mental Tomorrow. So taking pieces from KSmart, Honorable Mental Tomorrow, and then one of my former head coaches who's run a program called South High Gens. I took pieces of all of that and put it together because I thought each program lacked a little something. So I just combined everything together to create one program. And that's how we came. Believe it or not, it was HMOT, but as someone asked the question, can you use it for females? Everywhere I've been, they've asked, well, Jarvis, you're doing a great job with males, what about females? So now that I'm not a head coach anymore, now we're going to try to bring out the stretch among everyone. So now we change the name from Tomorrow to Beyond the Field. And that Beyond the Field goes the football field, the basketball court, it doesn't matter what field of sport it is, it's a sport. So, and I know they mentioned the freshmen. Believe it or not, we're looking to take on the entire high school, but that I'll let them make that call. Because typically that's what we did. We went from 9 to 12. But the program is not only set up for the high school, it's set up for the middle school as well as the middle league.
Oh, okay.
I gave it distribution to everyone. So I hope you guys looked at it. If not, I can just briefly give you how a day would look. So like on, let's say Monday, which we consider mentoring Monday. Okay, and actually we use like 4 quarters plus overtime. So if you look at each one of those quarters, it lets you know what will take place during those particular quarters. And things change from the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter. And overtime is typically things we want to do outside of our regular. Okay. So let's say mentoring Mondays. Every Monday, we'll have someone come in and speak to our young men or young ladies. And actually, Brad Sellers actually spoke to our young men when I was over at Shaker. So we bring in different ones who can bring a different something to the table to talk to them about. And that's,
Mr. Gibson, can you pick up the mic? We want to make sure we capture it.
Yes, sir. Check. Okay. And as Mr. Swift spoke about, we go from, again, 9 through 12, actually starting at 6 years old. But it's not only for ones who want to go to college to be an athlete. Okay. Whatever choice they say they want to make in life, whatever that path is, we put them on that pathway starting at whenever they start the program. So if they say, you know what, I just want to go to trade school. Okay, well, let's find out what resources are here. And that's the first thing we do. And that's typically what Dr. Anthony would do. We'll come in the building and find out what resources are in the district already. If they're there, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. And I tell this to everyone, to every place I've been. Most school districts have everything that a young person needs to be successful, but no one's really making them go into the services. Well, it's always for us, because I've been a head coach running the program, it's been our dangling carrot. So for us, they didn't have a choice. So the only thing we would say is that if administration, the coaches, everyone gets on board with it and say, this is a mandated program. For you to play athletic or play sports, you need to participate in this. Because the number one thing, just like the first question I asked when I met with Mr. Swift was, what's the football team's overall GPA? I've spoken to several places, no one can answer that question. It's the reason they can't answer that question. Typically, they don't look at it. But I'm a firm believer, if you take a look at your team's overall GPA, you'll find out what their record is going to be for that particular year. And if anybody ever wants to dispute that, I'll take the challenge, because typically that's the way it works. I've gone into places, I'll give you an example. When I went into Shaker, when I first got there, the overall GPA was a 1.75. and other stuff off the top of my head. By the time I left, it was at a 2.8. But it wasn't easy, but it's being persistent. You know, you'll get parents who want to fight you with it. Well, why are you calling me about academics? You're not a teacher. Well, I care more about their grades. I don't care about football. We can win and lose a game. It doesn't matter to me. But what's going to happen to you after you graduate? And I would tell you, because I'm a grad, both of us actually are grads of Case Western Reserve. The reason I went to Case Western Reserve is like when they recruited me, we never even talked about football, which was a shock to me because every other scout that called me, we talked about football. So when I finally got there, I asked Coach Harris, why we never talk about football? He was like, I seen your film. I know you can play football, but I'm more concerned about what you want to do once you graduate. End up becoming an engineer. I'm an engineer by trade, did that for 19 years. So those are the type of things that we do at the program. And I'll actually step aside a little bit and let Dr. Anthony speak a little bit, because not only did she run the program at Glenville, she ran the program at Akron Buchtel, but then she actually went over to the Bahamas and created another program over there for football and brought pretty much the same program there.
Well, he pretty much so covered everything. But I am Dr. Lisa Anthony. I am, like you said, a graduate from Case, from undergrad and grad school. And simply put, during my time working with the KSmart program, which is a positive youth development through sport program, you're utilizing sport as that vehicle. I created a case study while I was in grad school at the Mandel School to actually see if what the research says about utilizing sport can actually affect positive change in a young person. It's really hard to be able to do that in the United States because we have a plethora of programming. And so you really don't know if what you're doing is actually effective. Hence the reason why I implemented the similar program in the Bahamas, because they did not have any program whatsoever and they didn't even play the sport. So I implemented both the sport and positive youth development through sport. And at a time when the country was sending 1 male to every 4 females to post-secondary school. And we actually, inside 2 years, shifted that to 3 males, matching 4 females going on to school, and quite a few coming to the U.S. and then returning to their country. And it's really great to see what they're doing now, and leaders in government and owning business and family members and not in jail or hell. So it's actually does work. And I wouldn't stand here in front of you if I didn't believe in it. I wouldn't have been doing it for 21 years if I didn't believe in it. But it is a great opportunity, especially for urban students, because you can take what it is that they dream and what they're thinking of, and you can put it on paper and you can make them accountable and all those other influencers in their life accountable and take them toward their goal to achieve that goal. Other than that, there's not much for me to say, I don't think, unless you have any questions.
I do have a question.
Be the technical person on this one.
Yeah, I have a question. So with our investment, how often will you give us updates of progress with students? How many students in the program? Quarterly, or how would that work?
Yes, as the owner of the program, whoever invests is the owner. So those would come as often as you would need them. I mean, the good thing about Beyond the Field and a positive youth development through sport program is it has to come into your system, assess what's going on with you, and then take care of your needs. So if you say, you know what, we need to meet once a week for the first 2 months, then that's what you have to do in order for you to have the clear understanding that it's effective.
Yeah, so for the board, I think we need a quarterly report of progress per student, or just a general report of where we are, how many students participating, things like that. And we could work with Mr. Swift to designate what key points the board needs reported to.
Correct, because it'll be evidence-based. So that'll be the whole gamut of it, yes.
So important.
So I have a question, and it will probably align with Mr. Jolly's questions. Parental engagement is critical. And we know that typically parents will push back, to your point, if, we're harping on grades versus positioning them for excellence on whatever sport. So how will we engage the parents and shift that mindset to academics in partnership with the prowess on whatever field they're on?
Yes, let's not be mistaken. The grades are very important, but we're dealing with the whole student. Mm-hmm. So in that, the student doesn't even realize that you're harping or forcing them toward their grades. They just know they need to meet a benchmark in order to continue with what they want. It's kind of like you said, it's the carrot. So in that, you purposely plan activities and meetings where they have to, in order to attend, in order to receive the incentive that you have in place, they have to bring a parent, a guardian, adult with them. So they end up bringing that person of influence. And it's sometimes not the parents or the grandparents. Sometimes that person that is the influence is someone else. And so you then gain the relationship with the person that has the most influence on that youth. So it's all a part of the programming. The parental involvement, community involvement, your school administration, your coaches, your counselors. It's a team effort to make this child and these children to be able to thrive and move forward.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'd like to speak to, I want to thank you guys for coming here, especially Mr. Gibson. In Colorado, we had a program like this, and we tried it, but we didn't go that deep. We didn't get the character of the athlete. We went to high schools around the local area and tried to bring a program like that. We had a Christian Fellowship of Athletes. And then the Dallas Cowboys had the same program, Doctor, that you're talking about, and they tried to implement it. They didn't follow through, but anybody who was coming in as a rookie, they wanted to see your mindset. They wanted to see where you came from. They wanted to know your background and your parents. But with a good friend of mine, Ted Ginn Sr., I seen Ted do it with Cardell Jones and with Marshawn Lynch, and it was instituted to bring the whole community. So like we have a Tri-City area, it did for Glenville, it brought them all. So it wasn't the parent, it was like their coach from fourth grade or their good neighbor. It brought all those people, and I got to give it to Mr. Ginn. He brought them all together, and that's why people love the G and the Ginn Elite, because he did that with a program like yours, and it brought the whole city together, and everybody was rooting for Glenville, not even from Glenville. So it's a great program. I mean, I think it's not just for football athletes, and athletic director Swift knows this. This is for basketball players and everybody, but it gives that single black and brown child initiative to have character and know, like, hey, I'm in this program, I belong to something, I'm an athlete, but I know I got to get my grades. Other than your coach stand on your back like, oh, you only had a 2.0, you only had a 2.0, or you can't play this week because your grades. But it just gives you another avenue for those scholar students to actually have somebody helping them and pushing them and patting them on the back. So I think it's a good program.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I was the individual back in 2001 to help lay the foundation for what Ted Ginn Sr. now operates under. So I thoroughly understand.
Oh, I've seen the program. I've seen how it works.
When I go down there and see it, I can't believe they still have the same things hanging on the wall and still doing the same thing.
Thank you. Miss, we have one more question over here.
Actually, I have a couple questions. Your referrals come basically through the school.
Speaking to the mic.
Your referrals, how you get the kids involved?
They're not referred.
Okay.
No, it will be 100% participation. It doesn't matter their GPA, how well they're doing, their leadership ability. It's 100%, because if you bring in your best and the brightest, you'll bring everyone up with them. So it's everyone.
All right, fantastic. And I heard him saying about the mentoring, and I'm concerned about the students that don't play football. Those are the students that I'm concerned about, that need that extra help, that need that extra push, that need that extra support that your organization, I believe, can offer them. Because I look at Beyond the Field. When I looked at Beyond the Field, I thought away from sports. I thought there was something that you're going to offer those students that don't have the support at home, that you can offer them.
So I do want to speak to that, because I had a meeting today with the county about CTAG. There's a reboot of CTAG, and at our next board meeting, I will share what the reboot of CTAG is. But it's going to really address kids who are not participating in sports, that might not even see this program. These are students in school, 2 grades behind, attendance issues, parent issues. The reboot of CTAG will capture those students. So we're going to have the reboot of CTAG, which we'll go over at the next meeting, because the board is going to really have to update you on what the reboot looks like, because there's some real serious decisions that's going to have to be made by the board. We're going to have to discuss some real serious issues with CTAG moving forward. But they capture the other students that beyond the field won't have. I mean, if a kid not out for sport, don't come to school, they won't even see them. So we will see them in school, and we have CTAG that would address that too. So I just wanted to say.
But if I may add, you know, evidence through research. KSmart was created strictly for research out of Springfield College. And the truth of the matter is, as you build those leaders on your athletes, and they start to have that forward presence in the school in that positive direction, it will also bring your non-athletes. Yes. We 100% know this. Okay. Because right, I know what your concerns are, but if there was a large meeting or something, you're not going to say, "Oh no, you're not an athlete, you can't come." Right. You're not going to do that. Okay. Yes.
All right. I just wanted to hear that.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
I have
We have one more question over here.
Ms. Gibson, Dr. Anthony, will your program have dedicated resources just for our student athletes? For example, will there be like a Mr. Smith who just deals with Warrensville, or would they flow through the program and deal with, you know, different students along the way?
No, to be effective, you'll have to have your own caring adult mentor that's assigned to your school, because you have to learn and become intimate with each one of your student athletes. So I myself have worked with 2 schools, but again, I have 25 years in this. So that's totally different than, you know, today. And so you have to meet the needs, and there's so much that you have to do. They would not have time to be bouncing around.
Okay, understood.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right.
You can have input though, of course. You know, if you know of someone that you believe to be, because sometimes Ted Ginn and I, we had went around about this, and sometimes your head coaches want to select the person, and that person might be good at some things, but they might not get the overall of it, and then that's when you would have to leave it to the beyond the field staff to say, you know what, they're great for this aspect, but they're not going to be able to carry through and do what's necessary.
Sure.
Yeah, Nick Petty wasn't it. Nick Petty, I said Nick Petty wasn't it.
No, actually, we ended up with Al Cobbs, former principal. Yes, I trained him. Yes, and so
locking the doors, putting chains on things. I know who he is.
Yes, Ted had in his mind something else.
Right.
So are there any other questions?
No, I would at some point like to be able to see what they brought, because it kind of breaks it down what the expectations
So
are
this,
for each
right,
quarter.
it does not, it actually is an example.
Okay.
Because what has to happen is the team would have to come in and assess and see what's going on.
Okay.
So this is an example of what we have done in the past. But from someone who worked in 2 schools at the same time, those 2 programs, Akron, Bookville, and Glenville, were totally different. Only thing they did the same was play each other for the first time. That was it. And we created the Soul Bowl Classic from that. Other than that, I had to go in and create 2 totally different programs because the needs were different. Just from proximity and location of the 2 schools. And the socioeconomics of students in the schools, the family involvement, the resources, totally different. So what it would look like at Shaker, Chanel, East Tech, Glenville, it might not look that way for Warrensville. Right. Chances are it's not.
So you in the school every day?
No.
Will you be in Warrensville every day?
Individual program.
They're partnered.
You'll be there 5 days a week. Oh, okay. And what's the, how many children going to be in the program?
It's
Just a student athlete?
just.
How many student athletes?
We currently have about 60.
Yeah. Effectively, this program can be implemented with up to 125 student athletes.
Oh, okay.
I know that for sure. Once you reach over that, you're stretching.
So what about the ratio of the mentor to the students? Is it one person?
It's that one person can handle the administrative duties and everything needed. You have to bring, it's so many people are going to be a part of it. This is where your community involvement starts to happen. Someone's going to probably call you and say, hey, would you mind coming in and speaking to the students about whatever? So it's a lot of individuals involved. It's not just one person.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, this
we really strive for a 1-to-1 ratio with the mentor. But sometimes it doesn't work that way. But like Dr. Anthony said, once we get going and everyone sees what's happening, they start coming to the program. You don't even have to ask them if they want to be involved.
Oh,
And it starts.
I hope so.
We want to get the community involved.
You have to have that community coalition of support. You must have that.
Now, we said we're going to start with the freshmen. Would it just be like the freshman football team, or it's going to be freshman every team?
So it's just freshmen, not
No, I think Mr. Swift said
the
it's
whole
gonna
high
be
school.
everything.
Okay,
It's
that's,
a lot of freshmen, so that's why it's a lot of them. So, but no, it'd be freshman through senior.
okay, awesome.
And keep in mind, once they graduate, they don't leave us and we don't leave them.
Okay.
Typically, while they're in college, we're still working with them. We're sending them care packages because typically when you take a young man or young lady out of the city and take them to a school that they've never heard of, after the first few weeks, they're ready to come home.
That's true.
And let's say there's no support at home. Let's say they're the first generation.
Right.
They call home to mom and say, "Mom, I want to come home. What do you think mom's going to
Baby, come on
Come
home.
on home."
Right.
Well, we want to be there to say, "No, stick it out, hang in there. Let's give you a little bit of support." So we're always there. Another thing that's really huge is that when they go away to school, when they come home, they may get a job at the grocery store somewhere. We were trying to get them internships.
Oh, okay.
We want them to have work experience because a lot of times the kids will come back and they'll have a 4 or 5 year degree with zero work experience. And now they can't find a job and then they're just sitting over Amazon work. We want to get them to their career and get those guys. And actually, we work with Cleveland Clinic. Cleveland Clinic has a program where they'll get internships while they're still in school, still in high school. So we want to get them on that mindset.
And you know them into adulthood. Antonio Pittman is currently at the fire department in Columbus, Ohio. Ryan Williams just became the head coach for Akron Bookstore and is now implementing a similar program because this is what he was bred with. And so this is what he believes in. And his whole staff came from the program. So they're implementing the pieces because it's been indoctrinating them and they know it works.
Oh, okay. I'm happy to hear that. Mr. Swift, when are you going to get the 7th and 8th graders involved in this program?
Sure, hopefully so. It would be great.
We have to get it approved first.
Yeah. Crawl.
Once it gets approved.
Yeah, it's gotta be approved first.
Although, honestly, I think it would be great once we have the high school built. The most ideal time would be once that new high school is built.
But that's 2 years.
But you still have carryover. You have to understand, there's no limits to the program. See what your concern is? That's what we need to know. Your concern is the younger. So you create, and Akron, I think, community to give you an example. And Akron Book was the Griffins. They are the Griffins.
Okay.
So we created a new program called the Baby Grips.
Okay.
Where our football team would go down and become the mentors. Because we're teaching them how to lead and mentor as well.
Okay.
So the football team would go down and we would spend 2 days a week with the Baby Grips. And then they would actually bring the Baby Grips up to the high school. And that was a huge deal for these middle schoolers.
Okay.
In the weight room with the high school football team.
Eastside
or whatever
Griffs.
was going on. That was a huge deal. So it might not be that formal all together program at the middle school level, but doesn't mean you have to leave them out.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
I don't want you to leave them out. That's the thing.
Did you say?
I said I really don't want you to leave them out.
You don't want to leave out anyone, you know, so you do the best you can, but you can use your actual high school students
Okay.
to do some of the program. You're teaching them as well because they want to end up being like a Brian Williams or Antonio Pittman or someone else, you know, like a Tegan Jr. who comes back and embraces the community. You want that.
Right.
So you're relying on those high school students to kind of be your hype people, to hype the program up and kind of share what their experience has
They
been.
have to, because I had some 85% went on to college to play football. And then of that 85%, 45% made it to the NFL. And they used to ask me, Coach Lisa, what can we do for you? You know, how much do we owe you? You owe me an ACT prep. You owe me a conversation with someone to help carry them through, just like you carried you through. That's what you owe me.
Okay.
That's your payment back. So you have to teach them because they don't know. So you have to teach them. It's easy to say it, but they have to do it.
And I'll give you an example. Some of you guys know Swift knows Steve Cardow. Steve Cardow was part of our program.
Okay.
He's now a scout for this community paper.
Right.
He comes back once a year to speak to our kids.
Oh, okay.
And then Montel Sanders, who sits on our board, who's actually the player engagement for the Raiders. He comes back every year, actually probably 2 or 3 times a year to speak to the kids. Because believe it or not, everything that we're talking about, I talk to him probably once a week about is worse on a professional level. Yeah. Because they're just, think about if a young man never learned anything. Now you give him millions of dollars. He's still a millionaire who doesn't know anything. So they're looking for a program like this to kind of help because they're seeing the kids once they get to them, it's terrible. Okay. They're fighting with it.
This program was modeled after the NFL reports player engagement, the player personnel and director, and then the NCAA picked it up as player personnel, player engagement, and so then the NFL and the National Football Foundation found it necessary to put it in at the high school level, then they see it necessary to put it in at the middle school level. And so they know there's a need, but they're hoping that our school districts realize that there's a need in order to move their student athletes forward.
Now think about this. You have to start with the beginning at the high school level. You then incorporate the middle school.
Right.
And then you incorporate the middle program.
Right.
So you're getting this young man or young lady that's 6 years old. As they move through, you'll see a kid will be in your middle school program and then they'll transfer somewhere else. What we're trying to do is keep retention. We want to retain each other. We want to make them say, I already know I'm a kid Tiger. When we look on Friday night, we want to see little kids running around with Tiger, I'm going to get Tiger. You already know where I'm going. Well, I'm hearing kids are leaving, going to the academy and everywhere else. Well, let's prevent that from happening. Okay. We have to prevent that some kind of way because you say, okay, well, what's our growth factor? Well, guess what? Beyond the field, no one's running this program. I don't care where you go, I'll challenge anyone. They may have pieces of it, but they don't have this program. It's not there.
And what it does, it actually like just say I'm a single parent. I didn't have a dad. I didn't have neighbors or people like Coach Swift or Mr. Jolly around. This gives them character and they have somebody following. We do the same thing with 100 Black Men. It gives that person, that kid, and it don't have to be a boy, it could be a girl. It gives them something to do and somebody watching after them, somebody cares. And they need that. I mean, if I had a bad day in school or I didn't have a teacher I like at Warrensville, I can share that with my mentee, or I could say, hey man, I didn't like Miss Jones. It just gives them an outlet before they start hanging at stores, robbing, doing stuff through the Tri-City area. But it definitely builds character. I've seen the program. I've seen it on an NFL level with Dallas, and this is just a bigger program on a high school level. But it's a good program.
And I'll close with this. You guys Mr. Swift, think about everything that we just talked about. Do you think you can do this as well as those basketball? Absolutely. We're here to take that off of the coach's plate. They just need to worry about X's and O's and diagram plays. We do everything else. That's why it's beyond it.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I just want to make a quick comment to the board. So I'm looking forward to, if it's approved, I'm looking forward to, the first presentation that they give us, the update. But I'd also like to ask if we could maybe have a couple of students to come in that are maybe you've identified some of who the leaders are and get them to come in and speak to us as well.
Even the non-leaders.
Right, even the non-leaders. Yeah, let's hear the challenges and all that.
Yeah.
You are absolutely correct. When Jim Tressel offered me a job at Ohio State after seeing the work at Glenville, it was simply to be that liaison in between the coaches and his athletes. It was for nothing else. He needed that ear to his athletes that could also sit at the coach table and knew what to share and what was done in confidence. It is absolutely that.
He had a pipeline from Glenville to Ohio State. I mean, he put a lot of Buckeyes from Glenville on the field. And he needed somebody in that neighborhood, and you on 128th and St. Clair, between going to practice in Glenville, Ginn Academy, you want to make sure that athlete, I want to make sure Marshall Lynch and Cordell Jones get home and back and forth. But it was a way to check, and I know Ted Ginn couldn't check on all those kids. I mean, he did the best he can, and the assistant coaches, but it just was a way. And it brought the community together. That's what I like. When they made the playoffs and we went to Fawcett Stadium, you had more than just Glenville. Right. Yeah. Well, there you go. So, I know I've seen it.
So we appreciate you coming in. You are part of our vision of what we're trying to do of bringing our community together, preparing the whole child, getting our students ready for success. So we appreciate you presenting, and we will let you know if it's approved. Or Mr. Swift will let you know. You can stay and we'll let you know. And if it is approved, you can start immediately. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Coach.
So next up, as part of my presentation, is that we have Doug Myers and Sean here to give an update about construction. I know that we're under this $100 million construction project. We want to bring them in to give updates. There are 2 change items on today's agenda, and they will discuss both tonight. Oh man, I lost my board. All right, ready to go.
Yes.
Very
Very nice
for
to
your
see
patience.
everybody.
Good to see you.
Good to see you as
It's been a
well.
long time in 3
In
dimensions.
person. Right.
As Mr. Jolly mentioned, we have 2 requests tonight, and I don't know who's forward in the slide or if I have the ability to progress the.
Yeah, Jonathan has the control and clicker.
Okay.
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 So we have 2 change order requests. One is for a primary power loop, and that includes some HVAC and some engineering modifications. And we also have a request for bipolar ionization and high intensity UV systems, which we'll talk about. We also wanted to give an update, since it's been a while since we've talked, with what the status of the high school and middle school is. And then Sean is here with me, so if we have any questions, we can feel free to answer those. Okay? So the primary power loop, this cost is $125,120. This will be paid for out of the owner contingency. Further on in the presentation, I'll talk about where we are with the owner contingency, how much we have left, and how we're managing that. And what this does is this creates one primary power loop for the middle school, high school, the rec center, and the athletic fields. It includes 2 additional transformers, and as I mentioned before, some additional mechanical, electrical work. And if you could proceed to the next slide.
Could you just tell, like, basically give them a synopsis of what it does?
Absolutely.
Like, and what brought it about?
Yeah.
Yeah, just
Absolutely.
comment.
And
Yeah.
how it ties into the athletic complex and what the difficulty that the rec center had with this project.
Yes. We had, this was actually, it came up when we were looking at doing cost reductions with the project. As we know, costs are high for everything with the market conditions and stuff like that. And this was a suggestion that came up as we brought on the electrical contractor, as Infinity brought on the electrical contractor, as a potential. It's actually an ad request, but it's a long-term savings because of cost reductions in what the electrical bills are going to be. And so as we were talking about this, is something we wanted to take to the board to proceed with. And it actually, your electrical bills are based on a peak performance, on a peak demand. And so right now, with having 3 different buildings that are basically all getting charged at peak demand, we have one primary power loop. We're basically getting charged that once. And so that's why we're seeing a lot of the savings. This also actually starts to upgrade, as we had Movie Nolan on the project, and we did the high school and the middle school, and then we brought on O Sports, and we continued the design for the stadium project. This actually starts to put in some of the infrastructure so that as we get in, we have the power there. So we'll still have work to do, but this gives us some of the infrastructure. So that, and that's kind of a simple for very complex with what's going on, but that's how we're seeing the savings, why it's an ad, even though we're kind of considering it a cost reduction for the overall. It's not for the project, but for the district it is.
And in actuality, you look at those potential saving reductions we have, we think they're conservative from the values that we've looked at, but it's forever. And, you know, that's is one thing that we looked at overall is from cost reductions. When we were scoping out the contractors, one thing that we did at Infinity is think outside the box a little bit. And we looked at your distribution, and you have, you know, if you look at it today and going forward, we looked at it as one campus environment. And the way the design was set up, you had a rec center that had its own service, then you would have a middle school, high school, and then you had an athletic complex with their own services. And to me, that just was like, didn't make sense on spending that level of funds up front based on the design parameters and then just turning it over to you and whatever your operating costs were, they were. And so that was one thing that I looked at and a question that I asked the contractors, and there's smart people out in the market. So as the questions were asked and we brought people on board, this was one item that we thought was frankly a no-brainer. And it just took the team to redesign and re-engineer the primary distribution to allow what we feel will be a long-term benefit to the district, and that's why we're presenting that tonight for you.
So I have a question. I noted when I looked at the deck earlier, you shared that we'll be adding 2 additional transformers to support this. Will we need any additional permitting from, I don't know if it's going to be Highland or Warrensville?
We do not, because it's all incorporated onto your property.
Okay.
So it's part of your campus. So you'll have 2 transformers that'll be near the middle school, high school, and then we'll tie in the existing one that's near the rec center.
So my next question, and you have to forgive me, my dad's an electrician, so this stuff I understand.
Awesome.
If one of the transformer blows, will the other transformer be able to pick up and pull power for the complex?
Based on the distribution, you would have some down time for some of the distribution, but it depends on the time of year, the loads, and the requirements. If you're in peak, so if it's in the summer months when you're not in school, you won't have as big as a problem. You have athletic complex or athletic activities going on a Friday night versus a Saturday afternoon or a weekday. So it's a tough question to really answer, Tracy. But your transformers, there's not any moving parts in them. So they are pretty much, durable and long lasting. The design of a transformer, frankly, is, I'll say from a design basis, they can handle a lot more loads than they're designed for. So, strike by lightning, get hit by a bus, always a probability or a possibility out there in the market, but the likelihood are pretty slim. But then you have to be aware that you own those, and that in fact maybe you have some insurance component associated with that to address it, so it can be addressed quickly. There's contractors along with First Energy that can handle it on high power, your high voltage components. So there's a lot of ways to address that to mitigate the problem.
Okay, thank you.
So just for some clarity. So we are going to loop the recreation center and the athletic field to the high school. Correct so far?
You will all be on one service.
Oh, okay. And that's going to cost us right now $125,000 to do that.
For the physical work, that is correct.
Yes.
So are you telling me 5 years down the road, we should be saving some money behind it?
20 months.
No.
We're anticipating
Within 2 years.
savings on the electric bills
Right.
as soon as the electric bills start to get paid.
Okay.
And so right now, the conservative estimate they have was, I think it was $6,000 or $7,000.
6,200.
Yeah,
What did you say,
6268.
6,200?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And there are a lot of variables with that, but we've worked with the school's current electric bills, with the engineer, with the electrical contractor to try to put together a conservative estimate. They think it's going to be in First Energy. They think it'll be higher than that, but we didn't want to present something higher just as you're making the decision.
But it won't go higher than 125,000, right?
Our component is locked in. That's the top dollar. That's what it costs.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yes.
So if they estimate correct, in 20 months, it should pay for itself.
In 20
That's-
months?
In 20 months, if this 6,200 is accurate, in 20 months,
Okay.
it should cover the cost of the physical being.
And after that, you will see the reduction forever.
Oh, okay. Fantastic.
Go ahead,
So I'm
Mimi.
just curious because I don't know. Was there another option for us to use, or is this the only option? I'm
Well,
just
this is a
curious.
change. What we had in the project would have worked.
Okay.
The way it was designed originally, it could have, we looked at this a long time ago, early on, and I think we steered away from it because we knew it was going to be a higher cost. I think this suggestion came up and it was worth revisiting. And then when we really saw the numbers and looked at it, so what we had in the project could work. But with this, again, as we're looking for cost reduction opportunities, and then this we really consider as kind of a better design, because it is a campus, because it is the 3 buildings to have in one, you know, with the primary loop. And then seeing this, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
And this is with construction funds. So this is with our construction funds,
Uh-huh.
and this is within that budget. So it's no increase to our operational funds or anything. This is all within the $80 million project that we're doing.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
this is coming out of the
It
owner
was part of
contingency.
the owner's contingency.
Yes.
That's what the deck said.
It's coming
yeah.
out of it.
Right,
Yes.
Owner's contingency
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
within that $80 million.
Yeah,
okay.
it's where it's,
Rounding it up, but just to make it understand.
it's why it's odd that we're coming to you with a cost reduction idea and we're asking for money to pay for it. But we do have money in the project. It's just the cost reduction aspect is in the long-term
Understand.
electrical bills.
How much of a reduction did I miss that?
Hmm?
How much of a reduction is this?
So that was
Did I
the
miss that?
6,200.
No, you didn't hit it.
Okay.
The third bullet point on the presentation gives you the value. So anticipated savings, current bills per month of $6,268 months.
Dollars per month.
Oh, no, what I was saying is if this is costing us $125,000,
Yeah.
what was it before?
Oh,
If you don't know, I'm just.
well,
Oh,
basically you had the individual distributions that there were. So
Right.
This is in addition to what, it would have been zero if you wouldn't have changed it. But there, frankly.
Yeah, we already had that in the
Zero,
project.
I'm wrong.
Yeah.
It's not zero, because if we had the athletic complex, we would have had electrical service.
Correct.
Additional cost for that we haven't budgeted yet and put a price on. But what I've done with this 125,000 is that we've incorporated the athletic complex as part of the campus environment and have the service for that incorporated in that $125,000. So there would have been an add at another phase in the overall $80 million project for the athletic component that we are designing now and going out for price on. So there would have been a component there. I can't tell you what that was, but you know, it's a value that has some substance to it.
And I just want to add, like when you're doing a project like this and we have so many moving parts, so we got the old high school, we gonna demolish the middle school. Then you got the athletic complex, which will have parking. So you're gonna have new actual lighting over there. Then you're gonna have an actual parking on the north end, right by Highland Hills. So when you look at it, we have to incorporate a rec that we can't move. You're trying to incorporate a science wing that you can't move, and you have to build them into the new building that Sean and them is building. So we're bringing these two parts that we can't move. We're going to have more costs because he's trying to take the old electrical systems from the science wing and from that rec and incorporate in the master plan all the way around. And where we got the middle school now, that's going to be our athletic complex. So he's going to need lighting. He's going to need, maybe we have night games for softball and baseball. So the actual cost is going to go up than what we were used to because they're trying to, on our design, and when you look at Moody Nolan, and I know we went over this thousands of times, it's hard to situate what we're trying to do on the land that we have because it's shifted. It's almost like a triangle, and the top of the triangle is facing Northfield, and the back part is on Highland. So it's a lot of moving parts. You have a lot of actual parts that you have to put together with the new building. So it's hard, but it's going to be more lighting than we ever had. And that was a good question Tracy asked because those transformers, and I was questioning that. And, you know, I've been on you guys' back off of Northfield Road. I was worried that we're going to have more electricity on Northfield Road than we've ever had before. So, but yeah, it's a lot of moving parts. But if this can save us on the design and have better electrical, I'm for it. So that's all I have.
Is that all?
Thanks, Ray.
It's 5 years, Mimi. My head is spinning.
Okay.
Thank you, Ray, for living in my world a little bit.
The next request we have tonight has to do with the mechanical systems. We have a request for bipolar ionization system and for high intensity UVC. Both of these items, when we designed the building and when we had Infinity go ahead and price it, these were add alternates at the time. When we proceeded with the GMP, we wanted to make sure that we continue working on the project. Some of these items now it's time for us to make decisions on because construction's underway. We need to go ahead and get ahead of doing all the coordination with the submittals and everything else. We've looked at the budget. We'd like to make a request for this. What these both do, the bipolar ionization, both of these are add-ons to the existing mechanical systems. Bipolar ionization basically ionizes the particles, so it has positive and negative charges that basically help filter the air. The particles are attracted to it and they help fall down. And the high intensity UV is high intensity light with high waves, light waves that also kill viruses. So basically these are put together. These are kind of recommendations that a lot of school districts are going with. These are modifications that a lot of districts are doing to the mechanical systems. And so these are the two prices. They come up to $137,000, $170.
And with those were all competitively bid pricing. So as Doug might have alluded to, they were add alternates that we did for the market. So like when we received 6 electrical numbers or 6 HVAC numbers, they each bid those. So you're getting a great market rate based on these values that are incorporated and being asked to be approved tonight.
Did we do this at the elementary school too?
We did this after we finished the project. The school district went ahead and added that.
Gotcha.
Yes,
All right.
that was another reason why we wanted to make sure we had it add all.
Yeah, and that's for the teachers' comfort, students' comfort, everything. Clean the air, make sure everyone's safe. So
Okay.
It's more
So-
economical to do it now,
Before.
buy it at the factory, some of the components, so it comes out with the unit.
So these add-on would be for the duration of the,
Yes.
oh,
Yep. They'll stay with the building.
oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, if we go to the next
next
slide.
one, yeah.
So this is a summary of where we are in the budget as far as the owner contingency. So what we do is we isolate a certain amount of money that we're managing towards. With this segment right now, we have $1.3 million as our starting owner contingency. As we did the first GMP, we had some spendings with some soil conditions that we ran into, so we already have spent $170,000 of that. So right now we have a little over 1.1 million of owner contingency. With these two requests this evening, we'll still have $856,164 of owner contingency that we have in the project for us to manage to make sure we're in budget on the project. So I wanted to share this with you, and then if you can go to the next slide. Yep. Yes. So we also have a GMP with Infinity, and then as they are making their awards to their subcontractors, sometimes they come in high, sometimes they come in low. They come in high, that's where the CMR at risk comes in. They come in low, that's a benefit to the owner. So right now, Infinity has seen a buyout savings of $392,000. We also have absorbed already into the project. Infinity has added, through the buyout savings they've seen, other alternates that we had. The brick that we wanted to have on the building was already absorbed into the project. The north parking lot was already absorbed into the building, and then also the display in the gymnasium. So these are some things that we knew we wanted to have. Infinity was able to see with the buyout savings. So that isn't anything that we have to spend or anything. It's something that we've been able to add to the project. But also, as I mentioned, we're continuing to work on how we can see some other cost reductions in the project. We know we have the stadium design that's coming up. We know the market conditions are bad, and we just want to be in the best position we can be. So we have asked the team to look at materials and other items, such as the first one that we talked about with the power. And we're anticipating that as those come through, that we're going to see another $500,000 of savings. So that'll free us up to do some other ad alternates and for other unknowns that come up into the project. So key milestones for the schedule. I know you've probably seen it. I guarantee you've seen it. It's going up pretty quick. So I have some slides with photographs near the end, but you can see the structural steel is going up, underground utilities are going in, got masonry is being installed, the roof bar joists are going up. Sorry for this spelling error there. We are anticipating the bar joists and the long spans come in December. That's the first wave of them. We're going to have more coming in February. So overall, that was a little earlier for the first wave than we thought. Unfortunately, we're still in the position where we're not going to be under roof. We're not going to have enough. So there's still challenges that the team is managing with lead times and market conditions, as I mentioned, with insulation, curtain wall, lights. But the team is working diligently to go ahead and to overcome those challenges. And these are not unique to this district or anything else. They're all across the country with what's going on. So we're still expecting the occupancy to be complete by the fall of 2023.
I have a question for Sean. Sean, where you got on here underground utilities being installed, would they have to dig up the front of that Northfield and both sides going on those access roads?
We will, and that work I probably won't schedule probably till
next year,
months
of
this year. Right now, I'm focused on the south side of the site.
I got you.
We're putting in the sanitary lines, and then we have to make a water and fire line connection in Northfield on the south side, Ray, and then we
That's
run
adjacent
that
to them
along the
apartments?
adjacent to the apartments.
I got you.
And right through the asphalt paved lot that we just closed the past week.
Okay.
So that we started opening that up. So we're looking at getting our services to the building.
Okay.
Right now is our focus for the utility side of the equation.
Thank you.
One other thing that I just is interest, come mid-December, I think we'll definitely need some photos and a site visit. Those long span joists are 100 feet long, and we'll have a massive crane set up, and we'll be setting those in the high school gym, in the middle school gym, and the auditorium. It's quite an operation at that point. Being a construction guy, I'm a geek about those kind of things, but you know, that what we'll put out there for, you know, the board. I'd like to at some point is to invite you out and show you what we are doing for the benefit of the district and how we're approaching this project. But that'll be a highlight for us when we do set those, because we are moving very quickly. Today is the first day of fall. Tomorrow it's going to be 55 degrees. And then on Friday it's going to be sunny and 70. So, you know, here we are in Ohio, but we know that the weather's changing and it's going to change quickly for us. So we're trying to expedite as much work as we can that isn't impacted by weather, because weather costs money to enclose, and I'm trying to minimize those as we go forward. So we're very diligently approaching and aggressively attacking what we can in the materials that we can get on site. So, and that's why you're seeing some of the activities there based on what we're doing in place. But we're excited for what we've got accomplished so far, but we got a long way to go. And construction is, you know, today you're a hero and tomorrow you're at the bottom of the barrel, and you get up the next day and you start over again and go. So, but we're very optimistic of where we are as of today.
Thank you.
So I also wanted to update you as where we are in the overall program. You know, we've been talking about the middle school and the high school, but we do have the buses have been relocated for the to the old board, as I'm sure you're all aware. Middle school and Eastwood revised demolition drawings, as we mentioned, they had gone out before and the prices came back really high. We've modified them. We're going to get those out for bids this month. And we're hoping to be able to come with a GMP at the next board meeting so we can proceed with that. The athletic complex, I have some slides further on. The design for that is continuing on, and we're anticipating a GMP request in November for that. And we're working for the the football field to be usable in the fall of 2022 as requested. The
Okay.
track and the baseball and the softball fields would follow after 2023. Go to the next slide. I think we have. So this image I thought kind of catches it a little easier than the two-dimensional graphic we've been looking at. So you can really see the relationship between the stadium and the high school, and how we've kind of have an opportunity for a plaza between the high school academic wing and the stadium, how we're going to be able to use the restrooms and have gathering space and control of the space. We have the home side seating, bleachers, and the visitors are on the other side with the baseball stadium to the west. This graphic shows the parking lot. Right now, we're looking at having an ad alternate for the northern part of that parking lot. A lot of this, again, kind of our strategy when we have so many unknowns is we piece it up. So we've asked O Sports to put together a lot of alternates. We know what the district has high expectations, but we also need to know what we can afford. So a lot of these items on the next slide, you'll see it's hard to read, but the approach is we have a lot of items that are at alternates that we're going to get the prices for as Infinity prices it so that we can make decisions as we go forward with the project.
What is, what am I looking at in the lower left-hand corner? I see that's a baseball field.
Yes.
What is that?
That's the throwing area
That's what,
for track.
I thought so. I just wanted to make
And in that area, that's going to be a field, so it'll actually also be half of a field that can be striped for football practice.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yes.
Then also, I just want to talk about that blue thing. That is a alternate for a storage building.
Oh,
So
okay.
we're very limited on storage. So it's an ad alternate. Again, if the money is there, then we will add it. If it's not, it won't. And then also the top, I just want to talk about the top.
Yep.
That is a mound. So it would be where people can sit on a hill and look over at the field. And we will use the excess dirt from the project to build that mound. And then it's another mound underneath the baseball field on that pathway walking through. So, you know, just imagine the baseball field and people able to sit on these mounds and look at the games.
So the mound that sits on the Highland Warrensville Center, is that one of the mounds?
Right, it'll be
That will be the
similar
material.
to what's there now.
Okay.
We don't want to pay to haul it off.
Yeah, that'll be the material. So we won't have to pay to move the material. So the decision was made to put mounds where people can sit and sit on. And you see that at a lot of fields. You see the mounds and people can sit on the mounds, put chairs on or whatever.
That's pretty cool.
Sit there.
If you can go back to that slide, because I'd like to explain a little bit more some of the sequencing of the construction. Right now, that mound that is there, you know, we have a service road next to it. That's where the track, the last, you know, the first quarter of that track is going to be. So that's why we're able to get the field in, but we're not going to be able to get the complete track loop in. So as we work with Mr. Jolly, we're able to go ahead and proceed to get the field in. But just as we're still building the building and we have all of the material that's going to the building, all the access, and then when we work away from the building, we'll have the field in. We just couldn't get the track all the way completed. So that's why I mentioned that the ball fields and the completion of the track will happen as the high school is completed. Yep. Right.
The two gray boxes, are those?
Oh, come back.
Is that parking right there?
Yeah, so those are parking lots, and the idea is then off of Warrensville, we could have that as visitor parking, or it can be for the baseball and softball field or other events. We're anticipating you're going to have parking issues when you have big events. So.
Okay.
And these are a couple photographs that we put in. These are 2 weeks old, I think, at this point, so it's probably a lot farther along. That's right. I don't need to talk too much about these. I try to put, you know, some of the perspectives. I mean, this one you can kind of understand. The slide on, or the picture on the left is actually looking at the stair tower in the educational wing. So the north parking lot, if you park in the north parking lot, you want to go right into that to that stair tower, you can. The picture in the center that shows the elevator, and then this is about half of what the wing is. So as construction continues at this point with the photograph, it's
Right.
yeah. And that concludes the presentation. If there's any other questions.
Thank you.
No,
Any
I
questions?
think, no, I'm sorry, this is a long report.
was
To the
informative, though.
information.
Got to do the business.
Jonathan, can you put up the interior? We just show, we got a picture of the interior, just get a board, just a view, like 4 or 5. So they can see.
Oh, I like the paint colors.
Yeah, so that, go down to, that's just the floor. It showed the major areas, Jonathan. I think it started with the gym. Down again, down. Next one right there. Yep, 8, start with 8, and we go through those real quick, real briefly. So these are the preliminary sketches of the gym. Now go to the one before that, John. So this is the high school arena. If you look at the pictures, you'll see that's the floor. Then the top picture is like one of the ends so it's an arena type of floor. So the top picture, elevation 6, is like one end, and then elevation 1 is the other end, the arena type of thing, and then 2 and 1 are the sides of the court. So if you look at the court, where Tigers is elevation 6, where Warrensville is elevation 1, 2 is where to the left of the court, and 1 is to the right of the court. These are preliminary. This is, pretty much how the floor might look. But you see it's an arena. And the scoreboard tentatively now is one, the one in the middle. It's like a arena scoreboard. But we have some alternates for, if you ever seen Shaker's scoreboard, the electronic scoreboard. So again, it goes back to the money, but the base is the NBA center. The next one, this is the middle school gym, and it's the same concept. But it is not an arena. So it's the base gym like we currently have. But as you can see, it's high school regulation court too. All right, next one. This is the entrance, and there's been some modifications to this because of the cost. But this is the entrance to the high school. So as you go through there, to the left would be the cafeteria, and then to the right would be the academic wing, and then straight ahead is the auditorium. So it's like a mall setting when you come in. And then this is the middle school lobby. So again, you come in to middle school, that's the library that you see. And then you go to the left, that is the new part. No, that would be the old part of the building that they'll be renovating. And then you go to the right of this area, will be the new part that they'll be building. This is the high school media center, and you can see it's a lot of glass in there. And 2-story, has learning steps. Can you go to the next one, John, to show the learning steps. So these are steps that students will be able to sit on and study and so forth. It has all type of different areas that we don't see, but study areas and things in there. And it goes to the second floor, which then goes to a hallway area. And you see the finishes. And then the middle school, that's their media center. So that's more traditional, basic middle school. Next one, John.
Really nice, Mr. John.
This is the middle school dining area. So for everybody to understand, they share a kitchen. So it's one common kitchen. One side is the middle school. The schools are separate, but one side of the kitchen is the middle school cafeteria, and the other side is the high school cafeteria. And this is the middle school. So you see, we've got the food hall and so forth. Right, next one, go to the next one, Jonathan. One with the chairs. So this is the high school cafeteria. So as you can see, off this cafeteria, you're going to have the gyms, both gyms. You have an athletic hall of fame, and you have an alumni hall of fame all off this area. Almost a mall setting. And then this is the entrance into that. Go to the next one, Jonathan, because it shows furniture. This is the entrance into that. So that's like the event entrance. So at nighttime, we have games and things. You can get to the gyms auditorium and all of that off of this area. So this is almost like a mall area when you come in. You have a concession stand here. School store is here. Planetarium is close. All of those things are in this area. And this is another. And also the restaurant. If you look at this glass piece right here, that is the culinary. And you'll see that's the culinary area. So the culinary area is right off the cafeteria, but the culinary has its own entrance and exit, so that people could come. When we finally start getting it going, we'll start to try to see people that want to come and get served will have an interest. They won't have to come through the school. So have its own entrance. And that's an example with all the chairs in there.
Wow. This is really nice.
And that's another example. You see the alumni room, Hall of Fame. You keep going down that hallway, you'll catch the auditorium, planetarium.
Yep, there it is.
And if we and then we might have a multi-purpose room or Cleveland Clinic. We still have to determine where it's going to happen.
Quick question, how many seats in the auditorium?
I believe it's 450 seats in the auditorium.
So will we be able to return to doing graduations in the auditorium like we used
I
to?
don't think so. I think this auditorium a little smaller than the one that
It's 200.
Yeah, I think it's 450.
I know we were like 600 now.
I think right now it's like 800 seats in the auditorium. It's like 800, 700. This one a little smaller.
So are those seats up there? Is it just like a walkway?
That is actually
Stage.
Catwalk?
It'll be actually half of that, but it's just so that Jonathan can
Right, so it'll be big enough for us to do things in there. I mean, and have performances and things in there. Just won't be as big as the current one. But it'll be, and there's some other amenities that will be in there.
See that when we go on. It's all taking shape now.
Yeah.
All of the masonries and for the stage. So
Going up as we
see all
speak.
of that.
It's on that back wall.
We really have a perspective.
But it'd definitely be 21st century. So I just wanted to share it. We wanted to show you the internal, because no one really has seen how it's going to look in the inside. So that's it.
It's
So that,
very exciting.
if you have any questions for them too.
That's really exciting.
It's really nice.
All right, I got a few more things to report.
Thank you,
before
guys.
I
Appreciate
Thank you
it.
so much for coming. It's good to
Thank
see
you,
you
Doug.
guys. Take care.
So tomorrow's the Father's Walk at all schools. The elementary and middle school will be doing a drive-through. So fathers pull up, they're gonna give them a bag. The high school is actually inviting them into the auditorium to talk or something. So that'll happen tomorrow. Friday is homecoming at Maple. The theme is a blackout. So it's a blackout. So they want everyone to wear black to the game Friday against Collinwood. There's the class of 95 and 96 is having their class reunion. So they're coming to the game and being active and participating. Our alumni coordinator is going to have an ice cream truck there also for alumni to get free ice cream. And whoever else wants free ice cream. But that'll be part of it too. We pay for that ice cream when we're going to do that back to school cookout. So we just had them rolled it into this. And then the dance is Saturday at the high school, 7 to 11. But also at the same time, the Battle of the Bands is also at Bedford. So that was the schedule. It was all Battle of the Bands was already.
That's what this weekend?
Yeah, all of that's going on this Saturday.
Are they selling tickets at the door? Or do we need to get them in?
I think at the door. I will confirm tomorrow with Mr. Wilson exactly how to get tickets to the Battle of the Bands. Also, I just wanted to talk about the rec programs. Mr. Swift did leave, but he did start skills clinics for basketball. He will be starting soccer soon. They started tumbling. I believe they have 67 people in tumbling, 50 something in basketball. And also, I just want to share that the city sponsored a trainer to help with the skills training. So the city of Warrensville paid for a trainer. Bob Nance, for people who play basketball know Bob Nance, went to John Hay. The city sponsored him to train. We are charging the parents like $10 a session. That's our charge, but the bulk of the cost is being paid by the city of Warrensville, who is investing in youth sports at this point. So thank you to Mayor Sellers. But this will lead to a conversation with the three mayors about the rec programs. Mr. Swift is the AD. We are not looking. We are going to seek that the mayors help us with rec programming. It benefits the whole community.
Right.
So I would be meeting with the mayors and asking them to support the rec programs with possibly helping us pay paying the salary of a rec director. And then the district's contribution will be the use of the facilities. So that is the plan, to ask them for all three to help contribute to paying for a rec director, which goes to the last conversation I had. I sent out an enrollment comparison so that everyone can see how our enrollment is growing. You know, in 2018, our enrollment was high on men, and then the COVID and so forth. But we are seeing such an uptick in enrollment, especially at the younger grades. Where we have, go back to what the OSC projected when we did those projections in 16 at 1829, we are 96% at their projection already, with kids enrolling daily, which has led to the elementary school really starting to be overcrowded. It was built with 6 classes per grade level. We found our success has been with keeping class sizes at 22 to 24. Currently, we got 7 sections of kindergarten with 22 in the class. We just opened the section up yesterday. That's the 7th section, because we're approaching 25 in the class. With the COVID, the 18 months out, smaller the class sizes, the better. But as you can see, in 1st and 2nd grade, we already are beyond where we could be. All of our self-contained rooms are full already. So if we got more students, we have issues with that. So I wanted to bring that because that leads to the later conversation that we'll have in executive session about how we can address this what we see. As we develop our properties that we are vacating, which is Eastwood and others, there is opportunity for more housing to come. The mayor has some other properties that housing will be developed. And at this point, it is our belief that we're one school too short in our master plan. When we first started this in 15, we probably were about 1,400 students. As you can see, we've grown almost 300 students since then, and we're continuing to grow. And we have to start to look ahead, as we did in 16, as the board did, putting extra money in elementary school, because originally the elementary school was only, with the state, only going to put 4 classes per grade level. And with your wisdom and support, we were able to add additional money to that to get it to 6. But now what we're seeing is that the enrollment is continuous, it's growing daily. So I'll just give you a synopsis of where we are, and we'll have a further discussion later about some remedies that we can possibly do. So at this time, I know this is the longest report I ever had since I've been on here. Are there any questions at this time? Oh, one last announcement. You know, we brought Mr. Berry here, the movie guy. So he did fill out a permit, paid the cost, and they will be shooting them the workout, like a bodybuilding competition in the auditorium on Friday from 6 to 10. He is looking for extras. We did share with the students, but we're looking for extras to sit in the audience.
Is he paying people?
No, he's not paying people.
Okay, I just thought I'd ask.
Yeah.
Because usually you do get paid.
Yeah. So this is like an independent guy. We just want people in the audience. You shooting at a Adrenaline Monkey earlier, so they'll be coming from Adrenaline Monkey to us. And then later he put in a permit. He wants to do John Dewey, like a scene in the gym and then a scene in the hallway. So he'll fill out the permits for that. But I think this is a great opportunity for our buildings to be gone soon, and they'll be memorialized in this workout film. Everybody see the auditorium and get a piece of John Dewey in this movie.
Mr. John, I have one quick question. And you probably have answered it many times, but for the elementary, especially for the kindergarten class, do we have paras in every one of those classes?
Yeah, every kindergarten class has a para.
Okay.
Every last one does.
Oh, okay.
And we have 7. You know, we started with 6. Now we got 7.
Oh, okay. And the class size is between 22 and 24, correct?
Yes, they were going to 25, and that's when Ms. Thompson created the 7 section.
Okay. All right. So that's
Do
fine.
we have to take away from a class, from a grade level?
What they did is took a first grade person, and we have those 8 intervention teachers too. So pulling some of those intervention teachers to teach these classes.
Oh, okay. Oh, so we didn't have to hire any new teachers?
No, we didn't have to hire for this.
Oh,
we just moved people around.
Okay.
So Ms. Peoples just took it. And the thing about it, our community room is now a classroom because we had no more space. And we're trying to not go into that STEAM room for any reason. So the STEAM room is off limits. But using that community room, we're out of space. We're using all the extended learning areas. If we go in the 4th and 5th grade, you see desks everywhere. Every bit of room is being used in this building. So that concludes my report.
Thank you so much. Board, are there any other questions for Mr. Jolly at this time?
None for me.
All right, well, hearing none, Dr. Rock, we'll have you take the floor
Thank you, sir.
and present your treasurer's report, please.
Thank you.
This feels like old times. Pre-COVID.
Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Okay, every September, school districts have to do the permanent appropriations and certificate of resources. The permanent appropriations set the budget for the current fiscal year, which is this school year is fiscal year 2022, and it's due to the fiscal officer by September 30th. Just looking at the summary page of some of the key points. The general fund, this accounts for all our general operations of the district without restrictions. The revenue sources for the general fund include tax revenue, state funding, and other sources. And it's required to have a positive balance. And the carryover balance accumulates when we're spending within current resources. I'm happy to report that the district has a healthy carryover balance that is strategically managed through board policy and leadership to maximize the financial impact. Next slide, please. The next major fund is the 002 fund, which is the bond fund. This accounts for bond finance and revenue and expenditures. And the bonds are used to pay for our construction. The revenue sources for the bond fund are tax revenue based on bond levies, which we have 2. An old one will be paid off pretty soon. Amortization schedules and the finance model that we established. Refinancing decreases the terms and total cost of interest, which we already had one arm of that where we took 6 years off of the term and we saved $18 million. Next slide. The next major fund on the list is the Permanent Improvement Fund. Could you go to the other way? There we go. Thank you, Jonathan. The Permanent Improvement Fund, this accounts for permanent improvements and the 2019 certificates of participation for phase 2 of the master facilities plan. The revenue sources on this one is tax revenue from the PI levies. This covers building maintenance, improvements, equipment, furniture assets, any asset that has a useful life of more than 1 year, classroom equipment, and this also then the amortization schedules follow for the 2019 series COPS. The next major funds are 2 funds. They're 004 and 010. These are our construction funds, and they account for all the cost of construction. And 004 is the LFI portion. Those are the local funded initiatives. And 010 is the fund that accounts for the OFCC and local base portions. And these funds will eventually decrease down to 0. And when those go down to 0, that means we have all our buildings.
All right.
Next slide, please. And the next major fund, this is a new one, and this is due to the pandemic. We've gotten some federal funding, ESSER funds, and that stands for Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund. And again, this comes from the federal government. You can see it's a substantial amount in there.
And Mr. Jolly and I are strategically utilizing the costs associated with the pandemic, such as cleaning, social distance, and extended school years. The fund has a wide acceptance of eligible expenditures with very few restrictions. And this is our opportunity to really be strategic with how those funds are utilized to maximize the impact on the financial horizon at the district. Next slide. So happy to report that the permanent appropriations for fiscal year 2022 are in balance with the current available resources. That's what that first page does, the first document. And that the general fund budget will be incorporated into the November 5-year forecast, which is the next step. One last thing on the agenda is the operating transfers. Our auditors have recommended that we do the transfers at the beginning of the year to make sure that there's enough funding to cover the budgeted expenditures. So we have one operating transfer, and that's to the athletic fund, which is, we do that every year. And this transfer is in the amount of $95,000, and that'll cover our fund, the budgeted expenditures for this school year. And then there's an interfund transfer. Interfund means it goes from one fund to the other fund. This is going between the two construction funds, the LFI fund and the state portion fund, and it's for $6.7 million. But again, that's because as the construction occurs, that's when we actually get the real amounts on what goes into those two funds. Other than that, when the money first comes in, I put it all into LFI because that's our money to begin with. So that's why that's just a transfer between the two funds, just to cover the way that the costs and budgets are allocated. And then that completes my section.
Thank you, Dr. Rock. Are there any questions for Dr. Rock?
None, Madam Chair, for me.
No, I'm good, thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, then at this time, we'll move into our agenda. Thank you for the detailed report. And I noticed that our reporting, this is reflective of the new system.
Yes, yes.
And these are nice reports. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on to the agenda. So we're at section 2. If I can please have a motion on the floor to approve by consent agenda the treasurer's report and financial recommendations for items 2.1 through 2.5.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept as a consent.
Is your mic
agenda.
on? I can't hear.
I'm sorry?
Is your mic
Your
on? I
mic,
couldn't hear.
yeah.
Oh.
It's on. Madam Chair, I move that we accept as a consent agenda items 2.1 through 2.5.
Thank you. May I have a second?
A second.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly seconded. Are there any additional questions before we move to vote on this?
None for me.
All right, Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll?
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. All right, next on our agenda, we have one item under section 3. So if I may have a motion to approve item 3.1 under superintendent's recommendations and presentations for board action administrative staff.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept as a consent agenda item 3.1 administrative staff.
Thank you. May I have a second?
A second.
Thank you, ma'am. It's been moved and properly seconded. Board, are there any questions? All right, hearing none. Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll?
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Moving along, we are at section 4. I need a motion on the floor to approve by consent agenda superintendent's recommendations and presentations for board action certificated staff. This is going to be items 4.1 through 4.4.
Madam Chair, I move item number 4, the consent superintendent recommendation and presentation for board action. Certified staff, looking for items 4.1 through 4.4.
Thank you. May I have a second, please?
I second.
Thank you, ma'am. Board, are there any questions on this section?
Just one question, Superintendent Jolly, these names, Is this all the actual staff we need for those positions, or do you?
I believe this is most of the differentials at the middle and high school. We did take out all music differentials, except for vocal music, because we have to hash out some things with the band and who doing what. So they would come to the board in October. So all music except for vocal, all instrumental music has been taken out of this agenda and will be brought back in October.
Thank you so much.
Are there any other questions?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll?
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Next on our agenda, we have 4 items under consent. So if I may have a motion on the floor to approve by consent agenda, superintendent's recommendations and presentations for board action classified staff, and that's going to be items 5.1 through 5.5.
Madam Chair, I move item number 5 on tonight's consent, superintendent's recommendation and presentation for board action classified staff, looking for items 5.1 through 5.5.
Thank you. May I have a second? Second. Thank you. Board, are there any questions on this section?
I just have one quick question for Superintendent Jolly. On item 5.5, are that's just going to be in our arsenal, or are we going to use these actual substitute paraprofessionals?
Oh, no, we need every substitute that we have due to the circumstances of the pandemic. You know, people are going out, not coming to work. So we always need pairs as much as possible.
Okay.
On this MOU, I believe the MOU should be in here, which is 6. I'll talk about it when we come. We get up at 6.1, which addresses some of the concerns.
Are there any other questions? Hearing none, Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll?
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Next on our agenda, we need a motion on the floor to approve by consent agenda superintendent's recommendations and presentations for personnel and programs. And this is going to be items 6.1 through 6.14.
Madam Chair, I move item number 6 on tonight's agenda, the consent superintendent recommendation and presentation for personnel and programs, looking for items 6.1 through 6.14.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I second.
Thank you. Mr. Jolly, I would like to give you an opportunity to speak to item 6.1, the MOU.
Yes, there's a few I'd like to address though. But 6.1 is the MOU with OC. Again, we see there's a lack of substitutes, that it's a work shortage. So we went to OC to see, as we did last year with OC, that we could use them in different ways. So we're going to use OC members as lunch aides. We'll use them as custodians, like custodians and so forth. This is a great way that we able to keep our people. I mean, especially like with bus drivers. I'll give you an example. A lot of districts are doing incentives with bus drivers to get them 8 hours. They get a mandatory 5. With so we lost some bus drivers because they went to other districts because they get 8 and we only pay 5. So this is a way that we can use our employees to fit our needs. So we need lunch aides at the elementary school. We need substitute custodians. We need people in various different ways. So this MOU gives us the flexibility to use our people creatively, rewarding them for work and also meeting the needs of the district.
Question, Mr. Charlie, is the program like strictly voluntary? For example, if I'm an aide that if I only work the 5 hours a day, and you have something else for me to do, will I be penalized if I decide not to?
Everything's voluntary, so whoever wants it will have that opportunity. There's some people that want it, so they will get the opportunity. Some people don't, so they would never not do it. But we have a need for substitute custodians. We have a need for lunch aides right now. Definitely have a need for that.
And it's a great way to do some cross-training experience in other areas. I think it's
and one of the aspirational goals is to train some of them to be bus drivers, give them their CDLs. So that if we need bus drivers, we could pull somebody from somewhere else to drive a bus. I think, like Ms. Gator, to her point, cross-training, having people have multiple skills,
Right.
enhances our district, gives them more skills, but then gives us more flexibility. I want to talk about 6.2, which is a trailer. This trailer is for John Dewey. We simply don't have enough space at John Dewey, so this space is for like not guidance counselors, but our auxiliary services. So speech and pathology allows them to have meetings and so forth, because we use every space in John Dewey to get in there. The donations, Tim Lally, Speedy Grubb. I'd like to thank Ms. Farmer for her work in getting those donations. Carol Perry, thank her for her donation also. Then the other ones is 6.6 and 6.7 are standard ones that we normally do. The ALP solar grant, this is another grant for us for us to start a technology student association in the district. Credit recovery standard, which we do, and manual transportation. Then we have Beyond the Field, which you saw the presentation today. And then Where the Heart Is, you remember we had the culinary program. This is junior culinary, middle school and high school students. So we pay a chef to come in and work with those students. So our teacher, Mr. Eatman and Miss Paler Clark will run those programs, which will be housed in the high school kitchen. So those are some things we're trying to get to some semblance of normalcy. The culinary program is something that our kids really enjoy. You remember they set up, did some food for us before, and they're really excited about it. And then this all leads to the high school with this new restaurant that we will have at this high school, and getting kids excited. So that is that section. Any questions about anything on that section?
Nope, a lot of good stuff going on.
Right, just one, 6.6 Beechwood City School District, what they are providing, for the deaf?
Yeah, so they have a deaf program. Oftentimes, students come to our district and already enrolled in the program.
Okay.
So we keep them in the program. So that's what's happening with that. A lot of times, we get students who are already enrolled in the program. They move to Warrensville, and we just maintain them where they are.
Oh, okay.
And they have an exceptional deaf program in Beechwood. So
They do?
They do.
Oh, okay.
But I do want to say we do go to this before our next board meeting. We are in the Supreme Court. Our case will be heard on October 6th in Columbus with Beechwood.
Awesome. All right, if there are no further questions, Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll?
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Miss Mitchell.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. All right, we move through the agenda. We don't have anything listed under either item 7 or 8, unfinished or new business. However, we do need to move into executive session.
Madam Chair, before we go into executive session, I just want, and everybody know about Stanley Miller Sr. who passed, and I just wanted everybody to embrace the Miller family and Ronnie Miller, who's one of our educational educators, for the loss of such a great man. I mean, he has been in our district. He has been a board member. He's been with the NAACP and other organizations, but I just wanted to have everybody in the Warrensville community, because we're so tight-knitted, to embrace that Miller family, and especially Ronnie. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
And I did want to share, Miss Miller was here today. So I was able to talk to her today, and seems like she's doing well. Again, I think support would be needed. And I do want to come back to the board later about some ideas about Mr. Miller and our construction project and how we can recognize him. I think when we were talking about originally people who we could name something after, I think Mr. Miller definitely fits the criteria. We have some ideas that we would like to bring to the board for you to consider before the first of the year. And I would like to, once the board makes those decisions, invite the family once the decisions are made.
That would be wonderful. I did go to the service on Thursday evening. And it was packed. There was so much love in the room. Mrs. Miller, it was then in good spirits, and she's just a great man.
She's strong.
She's very strong.
Yeah.
The number of local ministers and mayors that were there just when I was there to pay their respects to the family was awesome. I was not able to go to the funeral, but I understand it was every bit as well attended in supporting of her. So whatever we can do to continue to support she and the kids, that would be awesome. At this time, if we can have a motion on the floor to move into executive session for the purpose to discuss the potential sale and or purchase of real property.
Madam Chair, I'd like to move that this body goes into executive session for the purpose of the discuss and potential sale and purchase of a real estate property.
May I have a second?
A second.
Thank you. Dr. Ruck, can you please call the roll?
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Miss Mitchell.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. At this time, we will go into executive
ahead?
session. We're going to go
I'd
back.
rather go up here. Can I go up here?
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah, 'cause I wanna look